the entire agri-food sector bears the brunt of the climate crisis.
Pour parler d'agriculture et d'Europe à la jeunesse.
Proteste der Landwirte zeigen, wie wichtig der strategische Dialog ist.
La PAC, c'est plus du tiers du budget total de l'Union européenne.
We have to find a new consensus on the future of agriculture.
Welcome back to Food for Europe. And in case you've missed it, a new European Commission took office on the 1st of December 2024, with a 5-year mandate to manage the European Union's executive arm. And that means for us a new Commissioner for Agriculture and Food, who will be responsible for a broad range of policies that shape farming, support rural communities, and help farmers continue producing quality food for Europe and beyond. With agriculture accounting for roughly a third of the European Union's budget, it's a job that brings with it scrutiny and pressure, and demands both an ability to seek common ground and a talent for listening. Step forward. Christophe Hansen, the nominee of Luxembourg to the new Commission, we met him right before he took office. As you'll learn, he's someone who's no stranger to wellies and mud. Agriculture runs in his blood, so his new job will combine his political experience with his passion for farming, food and rural life. He's our guest for this 4th episode of Food for Europe. Christophe Hansen, Commissioner, it's good to have you on Food for Europe. Thanks for coming on the programme.
Yes, thank you very much as well for having me.
Why the agri portfolio and what kind of commissioner do you want to be?
Well, first of all, agri is very close to my heart. I lived on a farm and I helped contributed as well to the work of a farm, so I know it from practice. But of course, I know as well the problems that our farmers are facing. We have a lot of environmental and climatic challenges that we have to face in there. My background as an environmental scientist comes in, and risk management, which is very important. There I worked in the parliament a lot on trade. We don't have to forget the geopolitical aspect there. We are exporting a lot of agriculture goods to third countries, so a certain openness of markets is important, but also we have to preserve and apply standards that we are applying to the European production, to goods coming in to the European Union. So for this, I think I'm well equipped. And then on the other hand, of course, the Commission President probably followed as well my work in the European Parliament, because I worked as well in the Environmental Committee on many files related to agriculture. So I think that was one of the arguments probably that led me to this function.
So having grown up on a farm, you certainly have a very realistic view of agriculture in 2024. During your confirmation hearing in the European Parliament, you said that you had seen the good and bad times in agriculture. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Well, the good times are, of course, when you are out on the fields, when you can take in the harvest. That's, of course, the very big and nice moments. But, of course, I have to say that it has changed a lot. I saw it from my father in the beginning, and then for my brother, it went even further. You have a lot of administrative stuff to do. You have to sit in front of papers or in front of the computer. That's not what farmers want to do. That's not productive for them as well, and that's not where they are really generating the win on the farm. So they really want to work with their land, they want to work with their animals and produce, and that's as well the service that they deliver to our citizens.
You've served as an MEP, and you'll undoubtedly have some frank conversations with the European Parliament in the coming years. We asked Benoît Cassard, a farmer and MEP from Belgium, to give us his perspective for this programme.
Our farmers suffer from unfair competition and lose competitiveness. So, Commissioner, should Europe give up its autonomy when it comes to food production, or will it finally have the courage to protect its farmers in the face of unbridled free trade?
In the light of that comment and what you said earlier about a certain openness of markets being important, what can you say about your approach to trade agreements as Commissioner?
Well, we are living in a globalized world, so we are exporting as well a huge amount of agriculture goods to third countries. 2023 was a record year with over 230 billion euros of export value. So it is very important that we have reliable partners. We see a lot of issues with third countries where we don't have any agreements. China, just to give an example. And there, I believe we need to strike balances. Firstly, agreements on the quantities, but as well on the qualitative standards of goods that we are trading. But we are an open market and we are benefiting from that. But we need as well to make these agreements compliant with the rules that we are applying to our farmers. I think that is very important. And then as well, we need to build in safeguards if there is the possibility that market would be disrupted, that we can intervene. We have several ones on the tariff rate quotas, for example, but as well when it comes, for example, to the agricultural reserve, where we can help our farmers if there would be a disturbance in the markets.
Thinking about first priorities in your new job, the vision for agriculture and food needs to be completed within the first 100 days of the new Commission. What contributions do you expect to make to it?
Well, the vision on the future of agriculture and food is not something that I will do on my own, somewhere hidden in an office. I think I have to go to the ground, to the fields, and speak with the people, with the first exposed to the challenges. I think that will be very crucial. We will have to talk about generational renewal, because only around 12% of EU farmers are below 40 years old. So we are going towards a cliff edge, a demographic cliff edge, and we have to address this, make it attractive for youngsters to start with agriculture. We will need them for the future to guarantee our food security in the European Union, and I think that is something everybody shares. Then, of course, we need as well to ensure a fair day's pay for our farmers. I think that is very important, and there we have as well to strengthen their position in the food value chain. And there I intend to do very quickly a targeted review of the Common Market Organization, to strengthen the producer organizations and to make them organized to get better prices and to reinforce their negotiating power. We have as well the Unfair Trading Practices Directive, which is a very recent European law, so we will assess that. But I think we can already say that we need further enforcement when it comes to the cross-border enforcement of this directive. That will be key in the first weeks of my future mandate.
Well, you mentioned the food value chain there. In this Commission's political guidelines, President von der Leyen said that with regard to the food value chain, Europe needs to correct existing imbalances. It's important for our listeners to understand what you think that means, because it can mean different things to different stakeholders. So let's hear from three stakeholders. First, Agustin Reina from BEUC, the European Consumer Organization.
My question to you is, how will you ensure a fair food supply chain for both farmers and consumers? And will you propose policies to increase access to healthy and sustainable food in the future vision on agriculture and food?
Let's hear now from Dirk Jacobs from Food Drink Europe.
Europe's food and drink processors and manufacturers play a vital role in ensuring sustainable, resilient and competitive food systems. We look forward to collaborating with him and will be keen to hear more about his plans to support the competitiveness of our sector while advancing the EU's sustainability and food security goals.
And finally, Marta Mesa from Slow Food Europe.
Our recommendation to Commissioner Hansen is to truly embrace the food systems approach, and in doing so to recognize the diversity that exists within European food systems.
So, sustainability, resilience, diversity, fairness, health, and correcting existing imbalances. It sounds like an impossible job.
that is indeed a tricky challenge, but not an unsolvable challenge. I think, again, we need to bring actors together. We need to discuss as well with them, and therefore, of course, I will launch the so-called European Board on Agriculture and Food that has been foreseen in the Strategic Dialogue report in the first days of my new mandate. This will be very important to bring the actors together and see as well what you can do in the entire food value chain to firstly ensure correct production, but as well a fair income and fair price for the end consumer. That is something we haven't talked about, but I think the consumer is very important as well. It's as well the consumer who chooses the good afterwards, not only on the basis of the price, but as well of the quality and as well of the availability and of the information that we provide the consumer with. So there's a lot to do indeed, but I think in this collaborative approach that can work and is feasible. Also on the price, I think it is important that we will have and that we have now this agriculture and food chain observatory that will shed light as well in the imbalances in the entire value chain to identify better where are the margins made and what should be done there. I think those are, of course, some of the points we need to go with and go with them quickly.
Another aspect of agriculture you mentioned earlier is generational renewal, an issue we've featured before on Food for Europe. Now, you're from a farming family, but increasingly we need to look beyond family structures to ensure generational renewal. What more can the Commission do to make farming attractive to newcomers?
Well, we need to make sure that there is a fair pay for our farmers. I think that is very important in the first place. Then, secondly, it is important that we manage as well to make the job attractive from a work-life balance perspective. And there, I think technology can help us a lot and innovation. So we need to bring it to the ground and make it accessible as well. Because we see that in the European Union, we have a lack or a gap of investment, and the EIB estimates it at 62 billion euros a year. So there is a huge deficit of investment because farmers are not sure what will be made the next 5 years of. And then, of course, they hesitate to make those investments. That is a problem. We need to address it. I'm in contact with the EIB president, Mrs. Calvino, on this topic, and we will deblock 3 billion of additional investment support for young farmers especially, and this will help them as well. I think it is important to see as well the access to land, because for agriculture in most domains, passing over of the land is very difficult and very pricey. And I think, therefore, we will bring as well the land observatory into action to see exactly who is buying, because we have as well a challenge of third country investors buying into agricultural land. We need definitely to address this, and we need as well to give a better and more targeted support, especially in the beginning when somebody launches an agricultural enterprise. I think this is very important, and we see that as well financial institutions are very reluctant because they know that we change as lawmakers the rules very quickly, and this is of course not giving them the necessary security, neither for the farmers nor for the financial institutions.
Moving on to the environment, you mentioned your work as an MEP on environmental issues, especially as they relate to farming. We asked Marco Contiero from Greenpeace about his organisation's concerns for the next 5 years, and this is what he wanted us to raise with you.
Will you ensure that the next CAP will finally help farmers who genuinely need help and reward those that invest in sustainability, as the strategic dialogue has called for? Or will you maintain a cap that subsidizes rich landowners and big agribusinesses, keeping the hectare-based payments we currently have?
So, an environmentally sustainable and economically viable agricultural policy. How do you intend to put these two together?
Well, we have not only to see what is being subsidized, but as well what can the market bring. And I think on the market side we have to work a lot, because farmers don't want to live only from subsidies. They would prefer to get a fair revenue from the market rather than to fill in farms in order to barely survive. So I think this is the first statement. Secondly, I hear from the statement as well the moving away from hectare-based payments, but this is too simple to say because the diversity of farms all over Europe is so big, and what is maybe a big farm in Greece might be a small farm in Germany or in Poland. So I think it's too easy to say that. And as well, when I speak to certain organic farmers in eastern Germany, for example, they have over 1,000 hectares, which would be the biggest farm in my own country. But they say as well there that it is not only the hectare-based payment that is bad. So you really have to see what is the production that you're doing there. And as well, a certain degressivity, I think that makes sense because we have as well an economy of scale. I think that is very clear. And the strategic dialogue says as well clearly as well that we have to better focus the limited amounts in the budget that we have. So I think, and this has been tried during the last reform, to have a degressivity there and to have as well the small, the first hectares to be enriched in the payment. So this makes completely sense. And we have to elaborate together with the actors what is the solution, because one size fits all. I think that's the wrong approach, because farms from sector to sector, from member state to member state, and even from region to region are so divergent that you can't bluntly say hectare payment or a capping at a certain point. This would be easy, but it's not the reality on the field.
Europe should enable farmers to work their land without excessive bureaucracy. Again, a direct quote from President von der Leyen. During your confirmation hearing, you talked about the administrative burden, and you mentioned it earlier in this interview. So how do you intend to confront this issue?
Well, paperwork is still somewhere necessary because we are talking about public money, and there is as well accountability for public money. Therefore, we have control by the Code of Auditors, and we have as well controls by the Cont Committee in the European Parliament. This is necessary, but I think there are means to reduce the bureaucracy as well. Those means can be digital and technological tools in order that declarations can be done online. Even there we see that there are problems all over the European Union. Sometimes they are because legislation like for this reform kicked in quite late. Administrations, as well the national ones, that is another problem, had to rush things, and often things are not thought through, and at least not thought from the point of view of the person that needs to put the declarations in place afterwards. And I think there we can and have to do better. We have as well to analyze how different legislative requirements kick in and overlap. We have to make sure that there is a once-only principle, that farmers only have to declare once and are not asked again. And then again, here on the technological side, I think it's possible nowadays in almost all the regions in the European Union to do as well geo-referenced photos, for example, for declarations. We have to analyze to go more into that direction, as well see if for certain services we can go into lump sums. We have already done a simplification package. The Commission has proposed it and implemented it in spring 2024. We have to look into that and see what can be done more. And this is something I believe we can do as well in the first year of my mandate, to really have a look and see where simplification is even further possible.
To round off this podcast, let's hear from Fabrizio Rossi from the Council of European Municipalities and Regions.
Dear Commissioner, Sir Christophe, first of all, let me congratulate you and I wish you success. My question for you is, how do you envisage to include and to involve local regional governments in the design and in the implementation of your strategy for food and agriculture?
And what's going to be your approach to that issue in the diverse Europe that you've spoken about to us?
The regional governments and authorities are, of course, very crucial because they are the closest link to our farming community. So I think we need as well to come into discussion with them. We have the Committee of the Regions here in Brussels, where the representatives of the regions meet. I think that would, of course, be a first good contact to discuss what we are proposing and will be suggesting with them. And then secondly, they have as well a really crucial role to play when it comes comes to rural development, of course, and as well to sustainable marketing practices as well, because I think we need to bring producers and their customers closer together. So we need to create the environment where this exchange can take place, the information can take place, because I think it is always the best when the supply chains and from fields to the plate are the shortest, and therefore we have to promote this 0 kilometer agriculture. I think that is something very important, because there as well, when you can look into the eyes of the producer, you are as well willing as a consumer to pay a fairer price maybe than rather when you go to a supermarket and just see a standard product lying there.
Commissioner Christophe Hansen, thank you very much for joining us on Food for Europe, and we look forward to hearing from you again once you've settled into your new job.
Thank you, and glad to see you soon.
And thanks to our contributors for reminding the new Commissioner, as if he needed any reminding, that this is a sector with dozens of stakeholders all keen to get their views across and influence the evolution of the European Union's policy on food, farming and rural development. That's all for this programme. We'll be back again soon with a report from the Agri-Food Days, including more news and views on the latest developments in this sector. We look forward to your company then.
The entire agri-food sector bears the brunt of the climate crisis.
Pour parler d'agriculture et d'Europe à la jeunesse.
Proteste der Landwirte zeigen, wie wichtig der stratégische Dialog ist.
La PAC, c'est plus du tiers du budget total de l'Union européenne.
We have to find a new consensus on the future of agriculture.